Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be filming for you my labor and delivery story, and I will be inserting some clips of the labor and delivery as well. So let's just jump right in because I'm really excited to tell you how my labor and delivery went and just kind of give you an insight on what I went through. You will hear probably in the background the sound machine, and it's just to keep her calm because it's really close to her feet and I don't want to wake her up, and she's all nice and tucked in and definitely content, so I don't want to wake her up. So anyways, I have my phone here and I put some things in my notes as things were happening when I was in labor, just so that I wouldn't forget for this video. But it all started out on actually like right around 12:30, right after midnight on the 19th of September. I started getting timeable contractions, and it ended up waking me up out of my sleep, and they were happening for about 45 seconds to a minute, and every single minute for about 5.5 hours. So I knew it was early labor, and I was using an app to kind of time everything, and the app was also validating that it was early labor, to stay at home, or when to go to the hospital. At this point, my pain was at pretty much like a 0.5. It just felt kind of like menstrual cramps. My period's always been bad since I got it for the first time at 13. It's always been very painful and just kind of unbearable, the cramping. So I have a high pain tolerance when it comes to cramping because of that. So anyways, the cramping that I was experiencing early morning, it was just very manageable and easy to get through. So I ended up just staying here, laying in bed, getting things ready. I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to go into labor. And I ended up only sleeping like an hour and a half. And I'm like, this is exactly how it was with Star, my second born. I didn't get any sleep. And I went into labor in the middle of the night. But I was like, okay, trying to accept it. But I wasn't really excited because I just wanted to sleep, because sleep's really important, obviously, for anyone who's going to be having a baby soon, but especially to do it naturally and unmedicated. You need a lot of your energy to get through the pain. So I was kind of upset. I ended up falling asleep though, and that was nice that I was able to fall asleep while having those like little cramping like contractions. So I fell asleep and I ended up waking up at 6 a.m. and I noticed that when I went to the restroom, I stood up to like pull up my pants, and like a liquid kind of fell out from me, and it wasn't like a lot of liquid, it was more thick. So I just took toilet paper and wiped it up from the ground to kind of see if it was clear, and it wasn't. It was kind of like a dischargey type of color, a little bit more milky, and it was definitely thick. So I was like, oh, it's not my water, it's just a discharge. But it still was alarming because I've never had discharge like leak out for me. It's never happened because usually a discharge is kind of sticky and thick, so it doesn't have like a, it can be watery too, but it usually doesn't like fall and act like kind of like water and drop on the ground. Well, at least that's never happened for me. So I was definitely alarmed. I went about my morning and I was still having a back pain, but no contractions. I've never had back pain with any of my recent pregnancies, so that was also alarming to me. But I did know that my uterus was still posterior, and I knew that that could probably cause some of the like minor backaches. So that's what I was experiencing. And just to keep things on the safe side, I wanted to call my OB. So that's what I did when my OB opened at 8 a.m. Even though I didn't have any contractions anymore, I just wanted to kind of let her know that I was having these contractions. And I ended up calling my doctor in the middle of the night anyways, because she knew that I was experiencing chemical contractions, and she confirmed that it was early labor. So she actually told me to just labor at home because I tested negative for GBS, so I could just stay at home as long as possible, and then when it got intense to come in. So I was just calling her anyways and following up at 8 a.m. to tell her that I'm probably not coming in because my contractions, they completely went away. But I wanted to know if she had any insight to like why that happened, because I've never experienced like contractions like coming and going. Once I had contractions, I was in labor and had my 2 other babies, so this was all new to me. So she was like, you know what, why don't you just come in, we'll check to see how dilated you are, and if we want to do a stretch and sweep, we'll do that. I've never had that done before. I wanted it to, this labor and all of my labors that I've had before, I wanted it to be very like non-invasive, so I really wasn't for that. But anyways, I ended up going in. I went in at like 9:30. I got to my OB and explained to her how I had that like milky discharge that kind of like fell, almost like a water-like feeling, like it just like fell out onto the floor, and it was kind of odd. So she's like, you know what, that's kind of concerning. Let me just take a swab and we're gonna check to see if it's amniotic fluid. She's like, I'm gonna have you cough, and if this Q-tip turns like a dark blue, it's amniotic fluid, and that's definitely your water. And I was definitely not thinking that, because I didn't have, she was asking, have you had any more leaking or anything like that, and I haven't. Like, I had nothing at all that was leaking, not at all. So what she did was, she actually first checked me, and I was dilated to a 3, and that's what I was previously anyways. But she said, your uterus is still very posterior, so I just don't think you're going to be going into labor anytime soon. She's like, you're probably just experiencing early labor symptoms, and your body's getting ready, and that's why you had those on and off contractions throughout the night. So she's like, but let me do that test, that swab. So she ended up going to get it, and she brought it back. She's like, I want you to cough. I did, and it turned the Q-tip dark blue. And she's like, all right, so that's odd. She's like, that you're not still leaking. So she was kind of like feeling around my uterus, and she's like, you know what? You have a tear in your bag, and the reason why it's not leaking like consistently is because the baby's head is blocking it and causing it to be a really slow, light leak. So she's like, I'm gonna have to have you admitted today to the hospital because you're gonna have a baby today. She's like, there's just a couple ways we can go about doing it. We can either admit you, give you Pitocin, because you need to have a baby within 24 hours since your water's been leaking, or we can admit you, break your water, and kind of see if you dilate on your own, and maybe administer Pitocin later on. And I was like, you know what, either way I'm going to get Pitocin. I had to get Pitocin with my daughter. I've done it before because I got induced with my daughter because I was overdue. And I was not very excited. I mean, I know that Pitocin can make contractions worse. So a backstory with my daughter, I got Pitocin because I was induced, but I went in at 5 centimeters dilated before I even went into labor. They induced me, they gave me Pitocin just to kind of like obviously induce me. And then I started dilating on my own. I had put like the lightest bit of Pitocin, and I ended up turning it off, and I went through a natural labor and delivery. So that was not the case this time around, and I'll explain why further. But I was like, all right, I'm having a baby today. So that was kind of exciting to know that I was going to have it and not have it like happen, you know, like without me knowing, and like random, like I could be anywhere. So that was kind of cool that it was a planned thing. So I ended up getting my stuff packed up and obviously getting over to the hospital. Well, it is the 19th of September, and my water broke. So, partially, oops, my hand's in the way. My water partially broke, so I was told to come over and get admitted. I'm in the bed. I'm having back labor because the baby is posterior, but I'm 3 centimeters dilated. My mom is actually, I called my mom to come. She's never seen it before, so I thought maybe it'd be cool to have her in here. Maybe it's a bad idea. But she's gonna be leaving home soon, and she'll be here in a like hour and a half. I'm excited. It's baby time. And I was admitted around noon, and they just hooked me up with my IV and everything like that, and I was excited, and I was just also trying to be calm. And my doctor said that she was gonna come, you know, around after lunch, 12:30, just to check on me, see how I'm doing, and then end up giving me the Pitocin to kind of jumpstart things. So I ended up getting my Pitocin at 12:45 on the 19th, and they eased into it. I started dilating on my own, getting contractions. My pain was probably at like a 1. It's like a 0 to a 1. It was very, very, very tolerable. I was doing some squats, some walking, and I was just kind of sitting there and just you know, staring out the window. I had a great view. I was just very calm and trying to just embrace what was going to happen soon. And then she was like, all right, I'm going to come back in a couple hours. I'm going to break your water if it doesn't break on its own. So she gave me that heads up, and she did just that. My water didn't end up breaking on its own, but I was getting just like normal contractions every 5 minutes. And again, my pain was at like between a 0 and a 1. Like, I could tell that they were happening, but I was not uncomfortable at all. I actually probably should have went to sleep because I only slept an hour and a half the night previously. So we just kind of waited it out. She was like, I'm going to do rounds and check on other people. As long as this baby is born before like midnight, we're good. And she knew I wanted to do a natural labor and delivery. So she came back at 5:15. Okay, so it's 10. Oh, wait. What time is it on my phone? Because that clock's slow. I think it's 5:15. So like almost 4 hours later, she broke my water. So let's do like a backstory though. I had contractions when she started my Pitocin, but I would say my pain never went higher than between a 1 and 2, right? I think my contractions just felt like, I don't know, manageable, but I definitely didn't think I was dilating. I don't know, I was doubting the fact that I was dilating because they weren't painful. But anyways, my doctor finally got here because my contractions were picking up and she had to do like rounds. It's super busy because it's like baby booming month. And she got here and broke my water at 5. And when she checked me, I was between 4 to 5 centimeters. So I'm really excited that I was able to get to around 4 to 5 with, I don't want to say no pain, but I don't know, very manageable, right?
Very.
So we have 5 centimeters left to go. After my water was broken with Layla, she was born 3 hours later, and after my water was broken with Star, he was born an hour and a half later. So I don't really want to go more than 3 hours of being
45 minutes.
I don't want to go more than 3 hours being in pain. And I'm sorry, this is really funny because it feels like I'm peeing. Like water is just gushing out of me. But I do know that after your water gets broken, like it can happen anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes is when like the transition stage happens and you get like, I'm not going to be talking anymore. So we'll hook this up like on the tripod so I can like get what's going on because I want to film some contractions. And then what else can I say? Oh my god, so much water. Okay, another thing, I feel like the pressure's all in my butt. I'm just giving like examples of what it feels like. Everything's in my rectum area. I still have contractions, like obviously in my pelvis, but like the pressure is like fully, it feels like I have to poop so far, like the whole time. I'm starting to shake. I feel like I'm gonna, oh yeah, I definitely the only thing I want to take is nausea medicine. I didn't say that yet. I think I can do this.
Okay.
So I was just sitting there in the hospital for about 4 hours, 4.5 hours, where I was just given Pitocin for those 4 hours, and my pain was at like a 0.5, like right under a 1. And she came back at 5:15. She checked me. I was 5 centimeters dilated, which was great. And she was like, all right, you're dilating on your own. I'm going to break your water. She ended up breaking my water. And that's kind of, it's a great feeling, but it's also scary at the same time because when your water is broken, it's really relieving. But you also know that within 30 minutes, it's going to be 0 to 100. And I've known that because that's happened with the other two. I've had my water broken with the other two as well. So when I say that I had my water broke before I went into getting induced, it was a slow leak and only partial, like my bag was only partially broken. So she came back in at 5:15 to like break the entire, like the remainder of the bag. That's just to clarify so no one's confused. So 5:15, I'm 5 centimeters dilated and she breaks my water. So I'm like, kind of digesting the fact that it's going to get bad really, quickly, and just preparing myself and staying positive, and that's exactly what happened. The water I need. That's like all I want is water. Um, my pain probably rose to about a 4, and where it was like, okay, I'm getting uncomfortable. I need to get like in a different position. I can't just be sitting here in an Indian position or sitting here on like my butt, because when you sit on your butt, you have a lot of pressure when you're in labor. There's a lot of pressure on your rectum, and I was sitting in Indian position the entire time before my water broke, just to help the baby descend and have my hips open. That's just a tip that I learned when I went into labor with my daughter. So that's what I was doing the whole time when I was waiting to get my water broken. So when my water did break, I was just really uncomfortable. I realized I needed to like get into a new position just to kind of like get through the pain. So what happened was I labored a lot in my hands and knees. That's what I've done with the other two. I feel like that just works for me. It kind of takes a lot of pressure off of, like I said, like your rectum, and it's easier to get through the pain. And I felt just a lot more comfortable. I felt like I had a lot of support by having my weight solely like being pressed on my palms. When I was on my hands and knees, I really liked that, and it was easier for me to get through. But things ended up getting very serious very quickly. In order to get through, like, for me, when it came to the pain, I can't really explain what it felt like when I was 5 centimeters dilated, other than I was just uncomfortable. I wasn't like moaning or anything. I was just kind of like breathing pretty heavily and just making sure I was like maintaining like a good, proper like breathing pattern, just so that I can get through each wave of contractions and then regroup when I had a break. I want to say around 6 p.m. I was like, okay, stuff's getting real. So yeah, she's pushing your abdomen now. Once you're getting rolling. This is about 45 minutes after my water was broken, and I was like, things are getting serious, and I was like closing my eyes, to kind of keep from getting nauseous, because my hormones were definitely changing. The pain was getting worse. So your temperature in your body, it goes from hot to cold, whatever it may be, and it can bring on a lot of nausea. So I asked the nurse to just bring in nausea medication and to hook it through my IV, because I just did not want to get sick, just because it's not really comfortable to have contractions on top of being nauseous. So that's something I ruled out right away before it even happened. They administered the nausea medicine. I was so grateful for that. But I noticed what happened was, just from getting like IVs and the Pitocin the whole time, I had to pee a lot during labor, and it hurt so bad, and I was so afraid to get off the bed and go to the bathroom and be in the bathroom like by myself having a contraction. So I ended up just peeing the bed. And you know what? I want to say that like that sounds out loud just so personal and so like TMI, like too much information, but it's not, and it's so realistic. Like when you're in pain, it is so debilitating to have to like get up and even think about moving. It's that crazy. That's what labor is like. It's just so crazy. Like even opening your eyes can kind of like increase the pain. It's just insane how such little movement can make a pain that much more drastic when you're in labor. So everyone in the room was just like, just pee, because you have so much padding on the bed. And they're like, we're just going to change it. You're leaking anyways from your water that was just broken, so it doesn't even matter. So I just did it, and I just let go, and it's so much easier to just kind of give in and let your body kind of take control. of what's going on, and then you also mentally take control of that as well. And it was easier to kind of like just kind of like give into the pain. That's kind of how I got through it before, and that's my tip to other people. But I will say that that was when I was like, this is going to be bad. If I have to pee the bed, the pain must be bad. After that happened, I was just like very, very uncomfortable. I was like, okay, this is so unbearable. But I know that I have a lot left in me, so I know that I can get through this. So I was moaning, but controllably. Like I was like more like quivering and just trying to breathe through it. It felt like, it felt exactly what it is. It's like you're pushing a watermelon at your vagina, but instead of that, it feels like you're pooping. It feels like the watermelon's putting pressure on your ass. The whole time you're in labor, I just want to say this, it feels like you have to poop. That's what it feels like. Like the pressure is solely on your rectum and not so much your vagina. I'm just being honest. So it kind of feels like that, like your butthole is tearing. I'm just being honest. And it's kind of uncomfortable. So at this point it was 6:15, and the nurse was like, let's check you. We need to see if you're, progressing, because if not, we need to turn your Pitocin up. I'm like, okay, cool. And just from like basing, what I was going through off of what I went through before with my daughter and son, I like mentally was like, I feel like I'm at a 6. Just because the pain was still manageable and tolerable, I was like, I feel like I'm at a 6. So when she checked me, she's like, you're at a 6. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I felt really encouraged. I felt like my head was in the right place. Like my body was, I was, so in tune with my body. I could get through this. So it's about 6:15 at night, and I'm just like, things are moving very quickly, because I only got my water broken at 5:15. So it's only been an hour of active labor. So, and my son was born an hour and a half after my water being broken. So I'm like, maybe I only have a half an hour. Things progressed really quickly, but I knew this time it might be a little bit different. I had a feeling. So what happened was, the pain got really bad. He's going to pee. Oh, he's trying to hurry.
We're ready for you.
Bad. It ended up going to 0. This is when transition starts happening, around 7 to 8 centimeters. So when I like, my eyes, they became like doe-eyed. I'm like, this is transition. I know it. That's great. I can feel it in my soul. I'm at a 7 or an 8, and I can't even explain to you the pain. So it's about 6:15. I go until 7:15, a whole hour, and because I said that I don't want to be checked. I do not want to be checked unless I'm at my wit's end. I don't want to be discouraged. I really don't. I really want to feel like, oh, I'm giving up. Check me, and it's like, oh, you're at a 9. So it gives me a little bit more encouragement and motivation. So it was 6:15 when I got checked. They told me I was at a 6. So then it goes, I start having a lot of intense contractions, and it was about 7, and I'm like, this is really painful. I know that I'm at a 7 or 8. I ended up pushing through, and they're like, all right, let's check you again. I'm like, no, I don't know if I want to get checked. And then I waited 15 more minutes later, and I'm like, no, I want to get checked. This is brutal. I just want to make sure I'm like at a 7 or an 8. I just have this feeling. They check me. They're like, you're about 7 to 8 centimeters. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm very excited. I'm going to have this baby 45 minutes. I'm going to be at a 10 max. So I, was very, very, very motivated by that and everything. So that's 7:15. It's about 15 minutes I go through after that, bringing me to 7:30, and the 15 minutes felt like an hour. I had where they had to turn my Pitocin up because they weren't happy with how fast I was progressing, and I was very confused because my water broke at 5:15, That's when active labor started. It was 7:15. It was 2 hours. So I don't really know why they decided to turn my Pitocin up. I don't understand that. But they're like, we're going to turn your Pitocin up. We need to get things moving a little bit faster. I just still don't understand that. And I remember looking at the nurse and I'm like, no. Like, no. I do not want my Pitocin turned up. When you get Pitocin, like they kept turning up my Pitocin every chance they got. They never let off of my Pitocin. I mean, and I've dealt with it before with my daughter. But I only had a small amount of it given to me. And I will tell you this, with my son, I experienced natural labor, 100%. I went to labor on my own. I had no invasive procedures done. I didn't have Pitocin. I know what normal contractions feel like from start to finish, from 0 centimeters to 10 centimeters. This was such an out-of-body experience. I'm telling you, when they kept turning it up, it felt like when you watch Jurassic Park and they like breed dinosaurs that are not supposed to be meant to be roaming around. That's kind of how it was with like this Pitocin. It's like they were breeding a labor that should not ever be dealt with by anyone. Like no one should have to go through with it, and no one should have to deal with it and care for it. It was traumatizing. I'm not even exaggerating. It was the worst feeling in the world. And I don't want to scare anyone. I'm just telling you my experience because I experienced what natural labor and what natural contractions feel like from start to finish. And they're still brutal. This was death. I mean, full on death. So she turned it up, and between 7:15 and 7:30, I lost control, and I had to regroup. I wanted to, really breathe through the pain and think through the pain. If I start screaming, it's not going to help. It's not going to do anything. But in that 15 minutes, I was screaming. Full on screaming. I could not get through it because they turned the Pitocin up. I had contraction back to back to back to back to back. There was no break. I had no break at all. I was from hands to knees, back, side, like any position possible. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like I was in an exorcism. Bless you. I'm not joking. It got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm not going to survive. And I felt so discouraged. I was so mad at myself. I felt like, you've done this before. This is definitely 10 times more painful, but you've done this before. I felt like if I gave in and got the epidural, that I was going to fail myself and hate myself because I just don't believe in it. I don't believe in what's in it. I just don't like how bad it is for you and how bad it can be for your baby. But I was so mad that they turned my Pitocin up. I was angry. I wasn't calm. I was not positive at all. I looked at my family and the doctors, and I was like, I want the epidural. And I'm like, I want it. And everyone was like, we're not doing it. My doctor was like, you're not getting the epidural. You're not getting it. And I was like, well, then check me, because if I'm not dilating, I'm getting the epidural. So she checked me, and I knew that I wasn't progressing because I was tense, and your body cannot progress when you're tense. You can't dilate. The uterus is a really powerful muscle. If you're tensing the entire time when you're in labor, that's the same thing. You're not being relaxed. Your body can't relax and fully dilate. So I was really discouraged, and she told me, you're still at a 7 or an 8. And I was pissed. I was very pissed off that that the Pitocin had to get turned up. I didn't understand why. I didn't have time to ask why. I was in so much pain. And then I'm saying, I'm done. And I told my family and the doctors, they know me, they know my birth plan. I said, if I want an epidural, you'll know. And no one would let me. No one wanted me to have it. No one wanted that. They wanted me to move forward and do it naturally because they knew that's what I wanted. But they didn't understand that the 2 labors that I had previous to this, it wasn't even anywhere close to the pain that I was experiencing now. And I kept trying to voice that to them. So I felt like I was screaming and no one would listen. And I thought that was kind of odd. I love my doctors. I loved my OB. But I was like, I want the epidural. I'm getting it. She's like, Sarah, no. There's 7 to 8 centimeters right now. 7 to 8 centimeters right now. You are fine. You can do this. You are so strong. Look how far you've come. Why would you get an epidural? You're so far. You're already beating you're already beating the transition phase. Why would you need that? And I'm like, I don't care. I can't take it. And I'm like, like full on, I'm like, I want the epidural. And she's like, well, think about it. And then the contractions are happening back to back. It's about 7:35 at this point, and I looked at her and I'm like, I want the epidural now. And I said, everyone, shut up. I want it now. And I was pissed. I was bawling. I was so mad at myself. And everybody in the room the life in the room kind of died. I think everyone was like, she's serious. So they ended up calling up the anesthesiologist, and he came in the room, and I was pissed. I was so mad at myself, and he's like, you're going to have to, sit up, hold still. And I'm like, how long is this going to take? I'm in so much pain. How long is this going to take? Like, I'm like freaking out. I was not calm at all. And I'm like, where's the anesthesiologist at? He needs to hurry up. He gets in the room, and I'm like, hurry up, I can't take it. And I was surprised because it took about 10 minutes for him to get to the room. So it's like 7:45 at this point. And no one checked me since 7:35. So it's only been 10 minutes and no one checked me. And I do know that there's a time where you cannot get an epidural. I've heard that before. So I don't know if it was because they were ruling me anywhere between a 7 and an 8 that maybe I could get it. But no one checked me for 10 minutes. All right? Like with him coming there. So he walks in the room, and I'm like fully accepting the fact that I failed myself. That's what I thought. I failed myself. I'm not tough at all. I can't get through this pain. I'm going to get an epidural, and I'm going to hate myself after. But I need a break. I need to sleep. I need to figure this out because I'm not progressing, and I feel like I'm going to die. So I'm full on freaking out and yelling at this anesthesiologist, you need to hurry up. I'm just in so much pain. Like, I'm like freaking out. And I am also terrified. I've never had an epidural before. So he ends up doing all the formal talk. I need a sign. They're like, you need to sit on the edge of the bed, you with rounded shoulders, your spine needs to be straight. And I'm full on like just shaking and like, okay, hurry the fuck up. Like I was just so ready to just get it, and I was like, I'll figure out and deal with how I'm going to feel afterwards. I just need to get the epidural. And I could not believe that I gave up. And I was that done with this labor. I couldn't believe it, but I was. It was that painful. And he ends up putting the catheter in and everything like that. He's like, okay, Sarah. He ended up taping everything. I'm like, hurry up. When are you going to put in the medicine? I can't take this anymore. Like, I'm freaking out. And he goes, I'm going to need you to lay flat on your back, and then I'll go to my cart, and I'll get the medicine to put into your, like, the syringe or the catheter or whatever he said. I don't even know what the hell he was saying. I didn't care. I'm like, hurry up. And then all of a sudden, I go, I just have so much pressure on my butt. I don't know why. And the nurse is like, that's good. I'm like, no, like, I feel like I have to poop. I don't know what's going on. And no one checked me, right? No one checked me. It's now 8 o'clock. It's 7:55. No one checked me since 7:35. No one thought to at all. And I kept telling them, I'm in so much pain. I feel like I have to put, like, stuff like that. No one checked me. So all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm laying back, waiting for the anesthesiologist is coming over to, like, give me the medicine for the epidural. And I'm screaming to my doctor. She's in the hallway. I'm like, please come in. I feel like I have to push. She checks me. I'm 10 centimeters dilated. 10 centimeters dilated. So I'm like so excited and so happy that I got what I wanted as far as like having a natural labor and everything like that. But I was so mad that I let go of myself for that short amount of time. And it's crazy what your mind can do. I lost control of my mind and I lost control of my body. And instead, I should have just gathered myself in order to get through that pain, because it was only minutes away from being at a 10. But I want to say I was able to do that with my other two. This time it was unbearable. I was that close to getting it and fully resenting the fact that I got an epidural. So anyways, she was like, your cervix, I can't even feel it. You are at a 10. So they ended up, they're like, put your feet up, and they grabbed my mirror because I really wanted a mirror, and I was to help with the pushing. My mom was right next to me, and on this side, and she was traumatized for sure. Oh my God, That's another story. She was traumatized. She was all like, "You're fucking crazy," in her accent. She's like telling me the whole time in her accent, the whole time in front of my doctors. "You're fucking crazy, Sarah. You should get an epidural." And it was just an interesting dynamic in that room. But anyways, I was so excited to be at a 10. I can't even believe that I was that close to fully giving up. So I got my mirror, I got my legs up, everything. I end up pushing 3 times. I can see the head fully. I'm excited. But I think at this point, like, I'm so tired. What energy do I really have left to push? But I was also motivated now because I was at a 10. So I ended up pushing 2 more times and holding that second push and doing a little bit of more like grunting and like smaller pushes just to kind of get her head cleared and crowned. And that's what happened. I pushed 5 times and her head crowned, and pushed 2 more times to deliver the shoulders, and she was born. Oh my god. Oh my god. 2018! I felt so happy, and I cried tears of joy because I didn't die. But I will say, that sounds so dramatic, but I'm not a dramatic person at all. I don't exaggerate. I'm not dramatic whatsoever. I felt like I was going to die, and I was just crying because I survived it, and I wanted to tell my story because I've always made labor and delivery look easy, because it kind of was. It was what I thought it would be with my other 2. It was easy. It was real. It was raw. It's exactly what I expected it to be. This was not real. This was not realistic, this labor. My doctor and my nurses also agreed this was traumatic. It was not what anyone should ever have to go through, and I'll definitely be honest about that. But I was very proud that I got through it, but I was very upset. I had a lot of resentment towards people that didn't listen to me. But then again, maybe them stalling me out those couple minutes saved me from, having to get that epidural. So I guess I'm grateful for that. But anyways, after I delivered my daughter, I obviously delivered the placenta, and my body went into shock a little bit because of how much pain I went through, and I couldn't stop shaking. I could not stop shaking. Like, my jaw was shaking. Anytime I was talking, it was like I just could not stop shaking, and I've never had that happen to me before, so I was scared. And my doctor said it's completely normal. It's because my hormones, what I went through and all the pain, my body was just going into, a little bit of shock, and she monitored it, and I was fine. She then checked me after I delivered my placenta, and she was like, "Honey, you didn't tear at all." And I knew, I feel like you can kind of tell if you tear, but I knew I didn't tear because my pushes were very controlled. I was very, very shocked by how controlled it was, with me being in a lot of pain previously. I think I was just so excited and positive and confident to just kind of get her out. But anyways, you will see some of the raw content. I decided to not show every single thing because it was way too personal and way too intimate. I mean, I was way too exposed, and I don't think it's really appropriate. I mean, I would show anything for like anybody to kind of understand and get a good visualization of what labor and delivery is like. But I mean, like, I'm not gonna, like, I had a lot of my body exposed. I had like a lot of bodily fluids, like pee and stuff like that, and urine and blood and just everything like that, just like kind of happening all at once. And no, I did not poop on the table this time around, so that was great. But no, it was very traumatic. I honestly feel like this experience, I'm not even gonna lie when I say this, it's really sad, but I want more kids, but this experience traumatized me to the point where I feel like if someone said, "Do you want more kids?" I'd be like, no. Not if it's going to be like that, no. I don't, because I don't want an epidural at all. And I would not go into it being like, "Oh, I'll just get an epidural if it's like that again." I just feel like, even the postpartum has been traumatizing. And it was worth it, of course, but it's scary, when you are going through that much pain. It's really scary. All right, guys, sorry. She ended up waking up because she wanted to feed. But yeah, so like, I'm not saying I don't want any more kids for sure. I definitely do, obviously. I'm just saying I don't know if I want to experience that ever again. I don't know if I could. and I wanted to kind of share that. So I've never been opposed to epidurals in the sense of like judging others who have gotten epidurals. That's not what I mean by saying I'm totally against it. I'm totally against it for myself. I just don't feel okay with it. I don't like them. And I have my reasons, and I've said my, my beliefs. I've spoken my beliefs about epidurals and why I choose to do things naturally and less invasive. That's just kind of to each their own. But I definitely am not, judgmental of those who get them. It's just, it's not for me. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll have more children. I absolutely love being a mom. And I'm just excited to kind of share a little bit more about my postpartum in a video with you guys, and then to kind of share more about this little one. And I wanted to show you guys her in the video, but she's feeding right now, and but we ended up naming her Mika, and it's so funny because so many negative things that can play a part into like your overall happiness and stuff like that. But what's interesting is my labor and delivery was a negative experience, but she, as cliche as it sounds, she was worth it, and she brought so much relief and joy the second she was born. But I will tell you this, getting to know her over the past, it's been 5 days now. I don't like people say babies are good or bad based on like if they cry or sleep. I am not one that says that. So I would reword it and say that she's the most calm baby that I've ever had. She is the most content baby that I've ever had. And that doesn't mean that she has brought more joy to me than Layla and Star have. But she has made up for the pain that she's caused me. And with that, I find a lot of faith and peace with just her being here. So it is worth it. It really is worth every tear and every contraction. And I'm really happy. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. And I can confidently say that. And she's amazing. She was 7 pounds and 1 ounce when she was born, and she was 20.5 inches long. And so she was the smallest of the 3, and she was the same length as Layla. And she's just doing really good. She has brown eyes, brown hair. She's beautiful. I'll fill you guys in more on her with when I do I'll do a newborn update, kind of like a week in my life type of video, and then I'll also do my postpartum video, and you guys will see that in the next couple of days. I plan to get this video up for you guys very soon. Thank you to those who were really supportive and who reached out and helped me during my postpartum and my recovery and everything like that. I really appreciate it. I feel very loved and very supported, and I really do appreciate it, because I want to make these videos for women, sorry guys, mostly women, because I care a lot about motherhood and living a little bit more of a simplistic lifestyle, a natural lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle. And I am excited that you guys like content like that, and I'm excited that you guys enjoy my pregnancies and my deliveries and stuff like that. That's really cool. And I actually really like watching all of your guys' stuff, your Instagram stuff, your Facebook posts, I love following fashion posts, and you guys, there's a lot of you that are really inspiring to me. So I just want to say thank you. And this is Mika. I'll show you guys her after she feeds, but this is her. You can get a little sneak peek of her head, but I'll show you more of her in future videos. But yeah, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video, and so much for following my journey. So I'll see you guys in the next one.